Many thanks for staying with us. Good morning, Kenya continues, and we continue the discussions around coronavirus pandemic, and we want to talk about the coronavirus take home. So basically, these are the lessons that we are learning as individuals, as country, as well as the globe in regards to matters to do with coronavirus, and some of the lessons we can take home even post Covid-19. To help us with this discussion this morning is Amos Wangila, who is a life coach, a researcher, a writer, and especially on matters to do with social hygiene. And also the lady next to him is Bracxides Ongola, who is also a life coach and doubles up as a critical thinker as well as an educator. So thank you very much, lady and gentlemen, for making time this morning.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so we begin with the basics. The aspect of basic hygiene. It is one thing that we have been taught since when we were toddlers from kindergarten, that you should wash your hands, wash your fruits before you eat them. But during this pandemic, it has become more of like a norm. Do you think that even as we continue this pandemic, as we continue recording numbers, and even post-coronavirus pandemic, that the thing about basic hygiene would be one principle that we would have learned as people, as nations, as countries? Beginning with you, Bracxides, what is your take?
The virus just came in to remind us of the basic hygiene principles that we've been taught. It's just instilling that value back to us. And I suppose it's something that would be continuing now that we'd have done it for some time, would have gotten used to it. It's something that we should be picking up even after the coronavirus.
All right. What about you, Amos? Do you think that this will be a lesson that we'll continue practicing even post-coronavirus in as much as we are learning it right now?
I want to be very careful not to say there will be a post-corona. I just want to say things could change for the better, but corona isn't going anywhere really. Corona is going to be with us, just like malaria has been with us for many days.
Okay.
So my take is we will still wash our hands, maybe not as much as we do right now, but we will still wash our hands, we will still maintain hygiene as we are doing now. Maybe not as intense, but we'll still do that, yeah.
All right. Now, coming to you, Bracxides, even from an educator's point of view, in terms of the digital access, is it a time that we need to start focusing on ensuring that this becomes, it is something necessary as of now, because a lot of things have moved online. When you talk about education, when you talk about jobs, works, people are now working online, and especially even when it comes to the education sector. Do we need to now start considering the digital platforms, the digital access, something that every Kenyan, now coming back to Kenya, every Kenyan can have access to digital platforms, especially for matters to do with education?
My taking is that our education system needed some form of disruption for us to do things in a different way. We've been hoping to have the education system digitalized where we are able to learn online, but it has been taking a while. If you remember, one of the president's agenda was to transform and have the digital education system. That did not happen. So coronavirus is just here to kick and also remind us further that we need this thing. And I like that now we are even practicing it and we see it work, and that is a plus. Because now the speculation around it that it might not work, it's no longer there. And you're also seeing the value add of this. The parents are benefiting as we are looking at the time difference and also the economic aspect of it. Initially, the time spent going to school, the money for fare and the financial aspect of it is now reduced, and the education is brought to your door. A parent can actually ascertain what is the kid learning at a particular time, what is the kid consuming, and is the teacher very effective in educating the kid through the online platform. So my take is that the education system, as it is currently, has already been disrupted, and you're already seeing a new wave, and this is the route that the education is taking. So the earlier we embrace the online and the digital setup of the education, the better.
All right, Amos, Bracxides is saying that the earlier we embrace that, the better. But we are alive to the fact that not every Kenyan or every Kenyan student might have access to these platforms. Like I mentioned, it is a place where we are all moving to. So even as you're learning so many lessons during this pandemic time, what is the one thing that probably the government or different stakeholders can do to ensure that this digital access actually becomes accessible to every Kenyan, regardless of status in the society?
It is expected that there will be quite a struggle in transitioning from the norm and traditional to digital. But what I would expect from especially the government is to make it possible for every Kenyan, irrespective of where they are, the economic status, to be able to access this education. Now, we will expect stakeholders to jump in very quickly to make it cheaper and affordable for every Kenyan. So we expect the prices of the digital technologies, for example, mobile phone, iPads, we expect them to reduce in prices greatly to make it possible for everybody else to access. Plus, the way we deal with our teachers, it will be important but that we train our teachers a bit differently because they're used to the normal traditional classroom environment. We are moving to where they will need to be speaking to screens and students also learning from the screens. Therefore, it will be important for us to channel more energies in ensuring that our teachers are well equipped, well prepared, and vast when it comes to passing information using the digital platforms. So basically, it's for everybody. It's for parents to save more for the digital. I mean, unnecessary spending on other issues will have to be put aside, so that we spend specifically for the benefit of our children, the same to governments.
All right, let's talk about the issue of crisis management. I mean, this pandemic has sort of rendered everyone into a crisis. But in terms of crisis management as a country, do you feel like we are there yet? Are we learning something new in terms of managing crisis? Because we know that there are so many crises. It could be like health crisis, like what is happening right now. There could be war crisis, refugee crisis. There are so many crises that happens in countries, different countries. But when you talk about crisis management and what you are learning, I mean, Amos, do you think that we are there yet, even in terms of managing future crises? Are we learning anything new? And if we are, probably what are we learning in terms of crisis management?
We are not there yet, but of course we are learning a lot of things. Number one, that it's important to be prepared, to be calm, because we cannot not always foresee what is going to happen. We cannot always be ready for everything that's going to happen. But the most important thing is we need to learn to be very calm in the face of a crisis. Then we can think straight. The moment you're not calm and there's so much happening to you, then you're unable to remain calm and therefore prepare and plan and make things work. So number one, we will need continuously learn that we need to be very calm in the face of crisis. We are not very prepared, but we are learning by day, and therefore in future, we will expect that every stakeholder will take part in making sure future crises are handled better. I mean, the most important thing we are learning from all these things is, number one, everybody has a role to play. And if that said, therefore, is everybody will therefore have to prepare from where they're coming, know what your value add is in the system in making sure that the economy runs usually, our social status are in good shape, and therefore, when we have a crisis, we can handle it even much better.
All right, so we are not there yet, but we are in a learning process because it's a learning curve. Bracxides, do you agree with that in terms of crisis management, that yes, we are in a learning curve, and probably what more can we learn in terms of handling crisis better?
I think the most important thing that we need to remember is, as much as we always have a plan laid out that things will turn like this, at some point there is a disruption and it will never always go the way we want it to go. So at that point, always anticipate that things might change at some point, and if they change, don't go to panic mode. As he says, stay calm for you to be able to weigh now what's the next step, what would be the course of action in this crisis, what's the best thing to do. Because we always find some people benefiting out of the crisis. When others are confused is when they thrive. So how do they achieve this? And this can be achieved by what we are saying, just calm down, relax, don't be worried and anxious about the scenarios and whatever is happening. Then you can be able to sift through and see how are you going to survive under this crisis and the turbulence around it.
All right. Now, coming to the aspect of health workers, we know that they have been the ones on the front line in helping us fight this pandemic, just ensuring that people are well taken care of. But even coming back to the country, since when this pandemic, since when the first case was announced, a number of health workers have been complaining that they don't have proper training. Some have been saying that their salaries have been delayed. They're not getting their allowances as how they would want to. So probably now coming to the aspect of leadership and governance, Amos, in terms of ensuring that we treat such kind of persons well, especially the health workers, in regards to them getting proper trainings, in regards to their salaries being paid on time, what are some of the lessons that governments can draw in how in learning how best they can treat such kind of personnel?
It's very important that, number one, we as leaders, we learn to be genuine and very honest with our people and take them very seriously whenever they stand up to speak. Nobody would wake up in the morning to just share things that they don't believe in that are not true. Okay. So we've been taking our health workers casually. We haven't been taking it seriously. And therefore, it is the part of the government and the leadership, therefore, to take them more seriously going forward. And in being genuine, when we go out campaigning and asking people to vote for us, we need to have that true patriotism in us, that we will not get to office only to misuse funds and for our own gain, that instead we will be very genuine and very humane to make sure that the lives of every Kenyan, remember, every life counts, and therefore, when we put measures in place, let's make sure we are doing everything right. It is almost an insult to expect a health practitioner to perform at their optimum when you're not making the conditions favorable for them to do so. Mm-hmm. And so I urge leaders, I urge everybody who is a stakeholder to take everybody's. And it's not just in the health sector, okay. It's in all the sectors, that please, when somebody airs an issue, we need to find an easier and a better way of handling the same in good time.
All right, now I was reading an article and there was a statement there that was saying that human health and the health of the planet go together. So in essence, this pandemic is more of a wake-up call for us as humans to learn how to protect our environment, take care of our environment, do away with all kinds of pollution, talk about the water pollution, the air pollution, soil pollution, and all sorts of pollution. Bracxides, do you think that human health and the health of the planet go together? And is this pandemic teaching us how to better take care of our environment?
Actually, I was just joking the other day that God has found a way of just putting everything at standstill. No vehicles moving so that we have better environment. We are not going out, so there is no much disruption. No one is going to the forest, so at least it's cool and the nature can regain its original form. But as you say, I totally agree. It's a high time we also look at the surroundings around a human being. We don't live in a vacuum. We live in this environment and the nature at large. There are other ecosystems and organisms that also depend on all these things. So for us, we are called upon to take care of this environment. So it's our sole responsibility that we take care of the environment. As much as we have all the technology and everything coming up, at the back of our minds, we should be able to think and consider what would be its impact on the environment. And as we assess vis-a-vis the benefits and the disadvantages, so to speak, then if they outweigh the disadvantages, and if we find that our environment is not going to be affected vastly, then we can opt for it. Unlike the scenario that has been previously, that we are more keen on what are we going to benefit from this technology, to benefit from this new thing that is coming up, at the disadvantage of the environment. So it's a time that we just, that Corona has knocked and it's reminding us that our environment is very key and we ought to take care of it.
All right. It is a time that coronavirus has reminded us that the environment is very key. But Amos, do you agree with the statement that human health and the health of the planet go together? And also from your perspective, what better way can we take care of our environment, even moving forward?
It is indeed true that the human wellness greatly affects the wellness of the environment at large. Okay. Now, if you are not mentally stable, how do you expect to even take care of the environment? You need to be sane, you need to be in a proper state of mind to take care of even the people around you. What I'm saying simply is every decision you make has to be very deliberate. How you relate to the things around you, the forest, the animals, has to be very deliberate. And that calls for a clear state of mind. Now, going forward, what is most likely going to happen is we have seen that everything is working, even while working from home. There could be a few hitches, of course, as known for change, synonymous to change. Things are not working optimally. But the truth is, we do not need all these cars every single day on the roads. We do not need all these kind of technologies that pollute the environment doing what they do best, and therefore making our environment worse. We have seen it work, and therefore we may want to embrace working from home, for example, as a way of reducing pollution by vehicles. We will need to think more deeply about that.
All right. Now, coming back to the aspect of leadership, Amos, in terms of governance and leadership, we have seen at least countries that have had, if I can say, good leaders, functioning governance systems, have known how best to deal with this pandemic. What is this pandemic teaching us in terms of leadership, functioning leadership, and good governance and systems in countries?
We have made very many mistakes in the past of not being keen on the way we put people into power and give them positions. We have seen in other governments, for example, in the US, we've seen people, the governments taking better care of the old, those who are more vulnerable to the disease. They're giving them something to sustain them because one, they're not able to go to work, they're not able to produce, and they are more susceptible to the consequences of corona. And so they're taking care of them because they had a fund aside to take care of that. In Kenya, on the contrary, we did not plan, we had no such plans in place. Instead of having a fund aside to take care of such vulnerable groups, what we've been doing is stocking money to ourselves, making sure that we grow our own empires as though that would add value. The truth is we are going to leave all these things here on earth. We really don't need them. And therefore, when you go to power, and good governance requires that, number one, you be very sober. You know that you are handling human beings. And so every strategy you put in place should help you, especially in terms of crisis, to handle the issues better. So going forward, I will urge everyone, if you want to go for office, re-evaluate yourself. Think about the qualities we always mention of good leadership. Understand the situations around you. Our environment is so different from the environments around the globe. So we cannot always borrow the strategies that are used abroad in our own setting. So we will need to find mechanisms that are tailor-made for our people, mechanisms that are tailor-made for our own population so that we survive and we grow. Very important.
Find mechanisms that are tailor-made for our people. So basically what you're saying is that we should not be so prone to copying what other people are doing, and especially the West.
Yes.
All right. Now, Bracxides is coming back to you in terms of the aspects of leadership and proper governance. Let me just speak your mind on what you think about proper governance and proper leadership, and basically what you are learning in regards to this aspect of leadership and governance during this time.
My take is that our leaders should always be ready and prepare in advance, because we elect them so that they can have a vision for us. They should be able to envision a scenario where we can have a health crisis and then have the strategies of, in case we are there, so what happens? So we expect our leaders to even improve each and every area, not the health sector alone, in readiness for any eventuality that might occur. As he says, our leaders should be very key. Our leaders should consider keenly on every time improving our processes so that they can at least be able to tackle the challenges that the world brings as we go on.
All right. Also, more of what you're getting right now is that prevention is better than cure. And that is why we are being advised to wear a face mask anytime you are in public. Ensure that you wash your hands, sanitize if you cannot wash your hands. So basically what you're being taught, or basically what you're learning right now, is that prevention is better than cure. But let's talk about the aspect of those that do not listen. We know that for a fact. There are some that just say, whatever they're telling us, ikuosha mkono kila saa kusanitize, ni kitu nimezoea kufanya. So what is the whole point of it? There are some that are taking these messages just like whatever, by the way. So what exactly would be your message to these people that are taking the prevention is better than cure kind of message, that as if it doesn't matter? They don't they don't take it into consideration just as we are being told. What would you say to such kind of persons that are not taking it?
There's a price. There's a price to pay for every level of ignorance.
Okay.
There is a price to pay for carelessness. So guys, I see people, even after seeing what is happening to other economies, we are very lucky that we haven't gotten there yet. Look at Italy, look at Spain, things are terrible. We cannot continue to have cases of people going and locking themselves in bars and drinking and being careless and exposing themselves to the consequences. Carelessness has a cost, ignorance has a cost. How I pray that it will sink in your mind that this thing is killing people. And sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense when we talk of people dying and there are only 14 people. until it knocks on your door. If it is your mother who is passed on, if it's your son, if it's your child, then you'll get the sense. Please don't wait until it gets there. Just take the precautionary measures. Once again, prevention is better than cure.
So prevention is better than cure, yes, and that message, you are hearing it oftenly now. But Bracxides, what will be your message to those that are still ignorant, to those that are still saying, I don't see the need of actually wearing face masks all the time, in as much as we are being told to do that. I don't see the need of washing my hands all the time. I don't see the need of sanitizing all the time. Yes, they're telling us, but I just don't see the need of doing this all the time.
What we need to understand is that whatever is there is very serious. Okay. And we've seen people die. So as an individual, you need to interrogate yourself and just contemplate, in case I contract this virus, then what happens? Look at your responsibility if you're a parent, all those who are depending on you. If you're a child, your parents are also looking up to you. So in case you get this virus, well, you may not die, but at that period that you'll be fighting it and your body controlling it, how many people will be losing out? How will you be losing out as an individual? Look at it more closely as to you. How are you going to lose in the event that you contract the virus? Because people are looking at it as a distanced thing. Someone else might get it, but I cannot get it. In the event that you get it, what will you be losing at the long run? And this will tickle your mind to remind you that you need to stay safe. If you look at what you're going to lose more than what you're going to get in this, then you will be able to stay safe, be keen, and comply with all these health regulations that you're being given.
All right, so Bracxides is just still sticking with you on the same issue of prevention is better than cure. And yes, you're talking about it, more oftenly. But do you feel like enough civic education has been done, especially in the informal setups, in the rural setups, for people to understand the importance of taking these messages as how they are related to them?
Yes, the government has tried in educating everyone in every sector. I'm more keen in the Mathare area, where people know actually there is corona. They know why they need to put on the face mask. But the challenge is, as you had initially pointed out, they don't believe why they should do it. As much as they've been educated on it, they're not buying it. Because some even argue that this thing is not true. It actually does not exist in Kenya. It doesn't, a black person cannot contract coronavirus. We are hearing all these sorts of arguments. So the question becomes, how do we get these people to shift their mind and just get the seriousness of the virus?
All right, so that's
as far as the civic education is concerned, the government has done its duty.
All right, so again, also that brings the whole aspect of misinformation. But let's go now to another issue. I mean, Amos, when you look at how the economy has been going, people have been losing jobs. Some have had to part with the half salaries. Some have had to go with no salaries at all. But what lessons can we draw, especially for employers, for people in businesses, for people planning to even have their own businesses and have employees? What lessons can they learn in terms of proper management of their company so that any time when there's such kind of crisis, they don't have to resort to laying off or paying half salaries to their employees?
I feel so sorry about those people who've already lost their jobs, those who don't know how they'll get the next meal on their table, those people who don't know what their children will feed on, what they'll dress, and it's a mess. I really feel sorry for them. For people in business, it's a time we need to focus more on savings. Sometimes it's very hard, even to me personally, saving is such a big challenge. But I think we need to read more, find more knowledge on how to save, because it is from these savings that many people are surviving on. And businesses need to learn the same, that when we invest our monies, we need to have some money aside to make sure that we have a stock to take care of the people who work for us. If anything, these are the only resources we cannot exchange for anything else. The human resource, they have a brain unlike robots. We need to figure out a way to have some money set aside in such hard times. As we had said earlier on, change will always happen. Sometimes waves will blow, things will go bad. We always need to be prepared for such eventualities, and having some money aside will play a very significant role.
All right, Bracxides, do you feel like there are more lessons companies, businesses can learn?
For the employees, the most important lesson would be, what are the services that you're providing?
Okay.
Are they just the ordinary services that any trained monkey can do, or are you giving a more value add to this? So let's look at being more authentic, improving on our skills, and giving something that the world needs, because that's the only critical item that can still keep you at the jobs. Because you're looking at AI, which is replacing everyone, and even robots work better because they will not have any errors. So if it's any data entry job, the robots will do it for us. So as an individual, the work that you're doing, which value is it adding? And is it relevant in the current sector? So as employees, that's what we should be considering as we move on, as we improve on our skills. And employers should also look at, employers should also be keen to give the employees an opportunity to grow their skills and to grow their knowledge in particular areas. So they should be at the forefront to push employee improvement, employee benefit, so that they can give the employees a conducive environment to at least improve on the skills that they're required to have. And once we have all these things intertwined, all these things going seamlessly, then you will find that it will be very hard for an employee to sack, for an employer to sack an employee, because they actually need that employee so much.
Maybe
right.
just
Amos,
to
you
jump
wanted to
in.
add on that?
Yeah, sure. This is a time where we need to be very careful about mediocrity. It's a time where we need to run away from mediocrity by all means, because there's so much wasted on ineffective ways of doing things. There's so much wasted in the way we run our processes currently. This is a time where excellence has to be at its best. So as an individual, as a company, we need to minimize costs. We need to reduce the amount of money we put to waste. And therefore, I will ask everybody, if you are in school, do whatever you're doing and make sure you're excellent at it. If you're providing a service, make sure your service is the best it can be. Reduce wastages, lower costs, so that we have more resources to use in other sectors.
All right, so even as you're talking about employers, a take-home for employees is that learn to offer not just ordinary services, but extraordinary services. So even so that even when the employer might think of firing, you would not top the list of the ones being fired. That's what you're saying, Bracxides?
Yes.
Okay. Now, moving to another aspect, again, still on matters to do with education. As of now, around 1.6 billion children are being deprived of their education. So when it comes to children learning, getting skills, getting better knowledge, do you think that during this time they can continue getting more skills, getting more knowledge that can equip them, even as children or as young adults, to make better choices in life or to learn how to deal with issues and problems? Bracxides?
The challenge we're having now is education in areas where the internet is not there, where people cannot afford a computer, they cannot go online. So it's quite a basic challenge there, being exposed to the kind of education that a Nairobi child can have. As much as we know, there at the rural areas, education is still being transmitted in the normal, traditional ways where a parent teaches a child. But this is just hindering them, this other exposure where they can learn more online. So my take would be that the government needs actually to empower all those rural areas. They started with the electricity program. So if they can run the electricity all around, if parents can be able to squeeze a bit of income and just be able to provide this basic necessity, then it will be very important for this child to be exposed to the education that is more palatable at this stage. And may I also point out that if you're a bit older, let's say for the university student, the institution does not give you the education. You look for the education yourself. So you're an exposed person and you can be able to go online. You should be able to learn on your own. As much as the institutions are very important, they've given you access to all the materials they need. They've given you access to the professors. So it's upon you as an individual to go and learn, unlike to expect that you'd get this from the institution.
All right, so remember that we are still continuing the discussions around coronavirus pandemic in terms of the lessons that we are learning, the lessons that we can take home, and the lessons that we'll continue upholding even after this is all over. And of course, my guests in studio are helping us understand more about that. But now, coming to the aspect of the vulnerable persons, this include the elderly persons, the poor in the society, the PWDs, and we know the aspect of even just getting basic food has become a tussle, especially for such persons. Are we doing enough as a society to ensure that the vulnerable persons are being taken care of during this time? And probably if not, what can we learn in terms of ensuring that these persons can be well taken care of in times of problems or even issues?
I think we need to empower more. We need families that are more empowered than have been traditionally. Because look at this. We are not able to move as freely as we would do before. Yeah. We are not able to access the services of, especially those people in rural areas. We are not able to access the services of experts in these areas. So I expect families to be doing more in ensuring there's cohesiveness, there is true friendship apart from the blood ties and being my wife and my child. We need to empower families more so that a member of the family is able to take care of the other member of the family in such hard times. That will go a long way.
All right, when you say we need to be more empowered as family, is that also adding to the aspect of not being people that we just reliant on probably the government or reliant on well-wishers? When you talk about empowerment, is it what you also mean in terms of just not being reliant to people, but being able to do stuff by ourselves?
Most of the time when we talk about the government, people think about the president, the MPs, the people in offices. The truth is the government is you and I.
And we look to them to give us everything.
Indeed. Yeah. So the government will only help in allocation and ensuring that these services go where they're supposed to go, but they will not go in the level of making sure they take effect at the grassroots. So the government is me and you. Mm-hmm. You cannot over-rely on other people. In Kenya, we have a problem of over-reliance. There are things we can take care of by ourselves without really needing the help of a government, a leader, or even experts. Now, we most of the time, the problem we have is that we are careless. We want things done for us. We are lazy. This is a time where we need to work even harder. And not just in the material goods, but even in emotional goods. Because you see, these people that are very susceptible, people who are high in the region of high risk, they're all, for example, we are the people to give them hope. If you don't give them hope, the government will send messages of hope, but if you don't have a television, if you don't have access to social media, it will still not reach you. So it's upon family members not to rely on the government, but to work on the things they can do. Remember, everybody has some level of capacity. Use that which you have within your reach to help make sure you help the other person next to you.
Use that which you have within your reach to make sure that you help yourself as well as you help the other person. But Bracxides, do you feel like you're doing enough as a society? Yes, I know Amos has talked about the issue of empowerment and how important it is, not just during this time, but in all times. But in terms of helping these vulnerable persons, we talk about the elderly, the PWDs, people in informal settlements, the poor, people that cannot afford basic necessities. Are we doing enough to ensure that these persons are taken care of during this time? And probably if not, what more can we learn in terms of helping such persons?
I think the most important lesson that you are getting out of this COVID-19 situation is love.
Okay.
How much do you love your neighbor? Would you see someone go hungry? Even without this coronavirus, would you see someone go hungry and not do anything? So it's more of being human. Knowing that whatever you have it so that you can share with others. So if we can do that, and while doing that, empower these people we are calling vulnerable, these people we are calling poor, so that they can be able to stand on their own. Because if we empower them and give them, let's say, a source of income, when they are able to generate their own income, then it's a less burden for all of us, because we are sure now they can take care of themselves in the slightest position they may be. And the other thing I must mention, which is actually eating most of us, is the black tax.
Okay.
Where you send a child in Nairobi, and all of you in the village now depend on this child. As a family, we should be able to come together, see these few resources that we have, maybe being generated by that person who's in Nairobi, and then be able to just diversify and ensure every member of our family is empowered to some sense. So that in case there is something like now we have COVID-19, you're not able to travel, you're not able to interact, you're not even able now to visit those people and assist in the way you used to assist. You're confident and you're safe wherever you are, that back there at home, they're able to get their daily bread, they're able to go on with life as usual, as opposed to fully just relying on you for everything.
All right, so what I'm picking from both of you is that empowerment is key and necessary, not just during this time, but even moving forward. We need to look at the aspects of how we can empower our society, especially the young persons. That's what I'm picking from both of you.
Yes,
yes, and the challenge we could be having right now is assuming that empowerment is a responsibility of some other person who should be a third party. The truth is, it's a choice we have to make for ourselves. Instead of waiting for somebody to remind you, which they can do, it's a choice we have to make. Empowerment will not come from person B or person C. There are things, like I've said, which you can do on your own.
Yeah.
Remind ourselves to do these things. Don't wait for empowerment from some other party.
All right. Now, let's move to other issues. Now, this is in regards to the social issues. Now, from both of you, even as life coaches, let's talk about the persons that are most likely to succumb to depression. We know that it's the time that when people are at home, people, like we mentioned, that some people have lost jobs, some people have to part way with half salary, some people don't even know what life will look like after all this is done. But for those that are likely to succumb to depression, what probably will be your message for such kind of persons? How can they cope? What can they learn? Amos?
For people who are at a high risk of finding themselves in depression, you need, if you have a family and you have access to them, even if they're not there physically, please use your phone more. Talk to people. It's very important. Sometimes we find ourselves, many people find themselves in depression because they imagine their problems are the biggest. Nobody has ever gone through this situation.
Their problem is unique.
Yeah, they have the worst case scenarios. The truth is, the moment you speak to another person, you'll realize that, gosh, I was enjoying life, I was actually doing very well, and somebody else is worse off, and that will help you even ease and be at peace to even handle your own issues. Very important. So talk to people, find information. Number two, and also very important, people who have a high risk of finding themselves in depression and stress, please stop overexposure. It's good to be informed. It's good to know what is happening around you, but don't dwell too much on the internet. Just scrolling through news on COVID-19, reading articles on COVID-19. The more you read these things, the more you get worried, the more you get to fear. Find a good balance between enough and too much, and therefore find a way of just taking in what is important. And for those people who are around such people, then, like I've said, while you empower yourself, make sure you play the role of a brother's keeper. Be there for your neighbor. Make sure that they don't get to these extremes. It will be very bad if we find ourselves that we had something to do. For instance, if this person makes a mistake, just go ahead and forgive them, because the moment you don't forgive them, they would easily have a problem even talking to you. So when conversations are halted, people are not able to talk in the house, then the problem becomes worse. Basics: forgive each other, ask for forgiveness, advise your helper, give the message of hope. The basics that you can do. Avoid overexposure. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah, Bracxides, coming back to that issue of depression, just like Amos has mentioned, that you should do away with just scrolling and looking at social media, but that has become a thing. You know, basically more of what people we are doing right now is looking at social media, going to different social media platforms, if it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, here and there. And this is some of the things that make people succumb to depression, because you look at someone else's life and you wonder, why am I probably not working? Or why am I not doing this? Why is this family member of mine sick and this other person looks like they're having a good life? But for such kind of persons who are likely to succumb to depression, what would be your message as a life coach to them?
Our journeys are different.
Okay.
We are individuals, and by the mere fact of being individuals, we are separate. So focus on your own personal journey. What do you want to be? Which skills do you want? What do you enjoy doing? And do what you can do to the fullest. That will give you a satisfaction, and you'll find life quite interesting. Someone might find television quite interesting, but you might not get the same sense from singing. So if singing is your thing, please sing as loud as you can. If dancing is your portion, wear on your dancing shoes and just dance as much as you can. We are all wired differently.
So what you're saying is also that it's a time for people to identify their hobbies and know what they can do best and perfect and learn to do that thing.
If you're in the house, try new recipes.
Okay.
You might just turn out to be the best cook. So just engage yourself.
All right.
And you'll find out some quite interesting facts about yourself.
Okay. Now, coming to the family again, what are some of the lessons that people can learn in terms of valuing family members, valuing relatives, valuing friendships? Because right now during this pandemic, a lot of countries have given directives in terms of movements. Like even coming down to Kenya, there has been restriction of movement in some parts of the country, in some counties. And one would say, I'd love to go to that my friend's wedding in Mombasa, or I'd love to go to my friend's baby shower probably in Kilifi, but right now I can't. So what are some of the lessons that people can learn in terms of valuing family, valuing relatives, valuing friendships?
We have limited time on earth, and as much as it's limited, there's so much we can do within that time that we have.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't spend enough time with them, you see what social distancing has done and restriction to traveling has done, it has two impacts. Number one, that those families that have been separated and for a very long time because maybe a husband or a wife can't travel back in, or a child, or can't go out. There are those families where they're now more together because they can't go out. They have to live together. So you get to appreciate that Daddy was doing something good for the family because while he's here, we are not unable to enjoy the lifestyle we were enjoying while he was away in the field working. For those who are away, you realize, for those who are together, like you didn't get to appreciate your wife enough because maybe you've been working out there and you come back home, you feel that they have not contributed. Yeah. When you stay at home, you realize it's not very easy being in the house. Those basic chores that could feel so easy to do, you realize they're not so easy. So what are we saying? That appreciate your spouse, appreciate your child. They have a contribution that they play, and however insignificant it may look in your eyes, it goes a long way in making sure that the family is stable. Everybody in the family is a pillar. They play a role. Now, every opportunity you have, send flowers, send kisses. Every opportunity you have, maximize it, making sure that the family is all you'll run to in case of such disasters.
All right, and just before I move to Bracxides, you've said something, Amos, in terms of, yes, this restriction of movement or these lockdowns have rendered some families to be more close to each other. Some have been apart because they can't move from one place to another. But coming to that aspect of the families that are now close to each other, which ultimately means that now they are at home more often, like the husband, the wife, the children are at home more often. How can such families cope, bearing in mind that probably these are the families that probably where the father was not used to being in the house, like from morning to evening? How can they cope?
We need to find a way of managing our expectations. Very important. Yeah. If you're used to your husband bringing you chocolate every evening, it's time to learn to start managing your expectations. And the other very important thing is let us learn to be, you see, what happens when we are so much indoors is our differences get magnified. We get to realize the things we didn't know. Exactly. The assumption is, as a family, we know each other very well. We know you know how your child is, how your husband is. But the truth is, while you're away, there are so many things you've never gotten to learn about your better half, about your children. This is a time when you're indoors, you get now to realize who this person really is. And it can get very, very uncomfortable when you learn the negatives. So it's a time to be, one, in terms of conversations, please be very open, be very honest, attach emotions in the way you speak. I was writing somewhere the other day that it's the time now to be more mellow, to be more forgiving, to appreciate your spouse more, because now you get to realize the value they have in place. Forgive more than you've ever forgiven before. Even before people apologize, just learn to forgive. Otherwise, for those families that were doing badly, if you don't make it a deliberate decision to forgive and make it work, it's even going to be harder because this person is going to be closer to you. They'll aggravate you more. So work on making it work.
All right, so even as we bring this discussion to a close, Bracxides, let me pick your thoughts on the same, especially for the families that are now staying together. Just like I mentioned, it is a time where fathers are not used to being in the home, to being in the house from morning till evening. So how can such people that are living so close like that cope during this time? What kind of lessons can they learn?
The first thing they need to do is to accept that the situation has changed and they are now together in the house.
Okay.
When they know that they are all in that house together, they need to tolerate each other. Find out what is their commonalities, what are the things that they enjoy. They can try out games and just see which game each and every member of the family enjoys and can participate. Try to build on the family bond around it, and they will find the environment more conducive. If there are those people who like singing, who like reading the Bible, who like reading stories, these are the things that you do together as a family, and you build the bond. If you like watching movies, all sit together and watch a movie, discuss it, and you'll find the day will not be so long, and all the negativity and the issues surrounding it wouldn't be that many, and you can be able to seamlessly solve them.
All right.
And the financial aspect is also the key one that can actually cause wrangles in the family.
Okay.
So each and every member of the family should actually be able to now understand that the financials have been limited a little bit, and they should be able to use whatever the little resource they have carefully, so that they don't drain their coffers.
All right. So thank you very much, lady and gentlemen. I have been speaking to Amos Wangila as well as Bracxides Ongola, who are both life coaches. They couple up with so many other things that they do, but they have just been helping us understand more of the lessons we can learn during this coronavirus time, more of those lessons that we have been learning, and just talking to us about different aspects, different sectors that have been affected, and what you can learn from all of that. But that is how that is where we bring the discussion to a close this morning. My name is Doreen Arange, and from me and on behalf of the entire show, we say thank you so much for watching from my end. Baram, just as you close it up for us.
All right, thank you very much for keeping it. Good morning, Kenya. I'd like to wind up with just one word for you, and this is a quote. The struggle you are in today is developing the strength you need for tomorrow. God bless you. God bless the work of your hands. My name is Ram Aguko.